Welcome to Dr. Roger and Friends, the bright side of longevity, hosted by 3 Ps in a podcast, Doc Roger, Teresa, and Danielle. Thanks for joining us for Coffee and Conversation. Kay Van Norman is an internationally known healthy aging expert. She is the president of her company, Brilliant Aging. She has directed the Keiser Institute on Aging, serves on international boards, speaks and consults around the world, and has an extensive list of publications, including 2 books and scores of journal articles. Kay is living her purpose and passion as a lifelong dancer and backcountry horsewoman.
Well, welcome everybody. Glad to have you with us. And today I am absolutely thrilled. You know, I always say our guests, I've known them a while and they're friends and all that. But, you know, I have to go with the superlatives this time. You know, Kay Van Norman is one of the most gracious horse people, but gracious person in my circle of friends. Next to these 2 I work with all the time. She's right up there. And she demonstrates such hospitality to us every year, and she lives in paradise, at least for most of the year, right? In winter, it can get a little challenging in Bozeman, in Bozeman, Montana. And she's gracious enough to invite us out there. And she and her husband, George, are just excellent hosts. And Teresa and I usually go out, and it is just magnificent. But I feel I'm falling way short of what you offer us when you host us, but here you are, and we hope we're gracious hosts for you, and we're very, very pleased for you to be with us today, Kay.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Roger. I'm thrilled to be with you. It's always a pleasure, and I hope I can provide a little value today.
Well, no doubt about that on our part, and well, I'm gonna let my accomplices here jump right in, but I have my part that I'll be patient with. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Thanks, Roger. So, Kay, your life work has been with health and wellness. What lessons do you think the pandemic has taught us that we can learn in order to live healthier?
Well, I think one of the main things is that we can't always rely just on external opportunities to help improve our well-being and maintain our well-being. I think it was a real shock, for many people that had a pretty well-established routine, perhaps, of going to the gym or doing, some kind of physical activity in groups, that suddenly all of this was just shut down in a blink of an eye. And so if you don't have a sort of an internal framework built around the idea that you have to be the driver behind your own well-being, then I think it was a very difficult time for many people. I mean, I hear a lot of people talking about the COVID-15, which is the 15 pounds everybody gained from not being able to go to their classes. So that, I think it was a big one. And I think the other is just how important that social connection is. And yes, it's great to be able to go online and talk to people and stuff, but it's not the same as that personal connection. And, I heard people talking about missing just hugs and that even just touching people. And so I think there's a lot of lessons in this for us. And I also think that it's going to be interesting to see how many people that did not embrace opportunities for well-being when they were so readily available started feeling a little like, well, wait a minute. That's something I might want to do, and now I can't do it. Because I've actually talked to some senior living community program directors that said there are people, especially men, who haven't been involved in the programs, who are watching their spouses engage online, like through the on in-room TV channels, et cetera, and kind of going, oh, well, maybe I'll do that with you. And so I don't know. I think there's kind of everything's usually a double-edged sword. Others can be positive, maybe a lot of negative, but so I think that's it in general, just kind of the overall.
I think a lot of people have also been made acutely aware of their vulnerability and how paying attention to your health, you talk about all the time and have for so long, physically, mentally, socially, and with purpose. We're going to get to that in just a little while. Provides us an element of resilience and stimulates our immune system, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's very interesting that I was just reading about some of the vaccines that they're trying to work on for this COVID are really focused on improving the immune response to it. And so instead of actually trying to prevent it, it's like they're just trying to improve the immune response to it. And so I think it's so critical. It shines a light on how important it is to create a lifestyle that uplifts that immune response, not only to something like COVID, but just to everything. Do you have good nutrition? Are you being physically active enough to keep your body functioning at its best capacity? Are you having a positive mental attitude? Are you doing the things that you should be doing to stay healthy? Because most people know what they should be doing, but they just have a hard time making themselves do it often.
Yeah. Hey, you guys are serious about this. I really do need to do this. This is a wake up.
Well, it's always been about chronic disease. And so that's so long term. And we just aren't long term thinkers necessarily. And so interesting during this pandemic, like the broccoli is flying off the grocery store shelves. So it's like such a dramatic change. Suddenly it is about infectious disease and it's about immediate, like short term health improvements. It's just such a big pivot for us, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think the whole healthcare system, you see these healthcare workers. I mean, they seem like they're undergoing PTSD because in my entire medical career, we have not had threats like this to infectious disease that we couldn't manage, that we couldn't cure most, couldn't help most. And to see so many die despite their efforts, they are in absolute shock. And I think medicine will learn from this, and I think medical education will probably learn from this.
I do hope that individuals, like you said, Roger, I think people are feeling very vulnerable in many ways, not only just health vulnerability, but food source vulnerability. I mean, that we've never in my lifetime had an issue with, having empty store shelves and stuff. So I think it's a big wake up call for people to realize that we've taken so much for granted, that we really need to pay attention and, create our own world in such a way that, maybe we do have some, stocked up food. Maybe we do have growing a garden so that we have access to fresh vegetables, that we're really taking a more personal responsibility for creating that sort of bubble of wellness around ourselves, I think is really important.
Kay, you mentioned earlier what we know and what we do kind of being two different things. So, so many of us do seek greater well-being. We know that's what's good for us. We know what we should do, but there's that gap between knowing and doing. So, and I know you have a solution for that called the Vitality Portfolio, and that's your concept about bringing intention into action. So can you tell us more about that?
Oh, sure. That has always been a fascination of mine, that gap between knowing and doing, and that gap between intentions and actions. How do you give people little baby stepping stones to move from intention into action? So I started thinking about this over the years, and I think it's been probably, maybe 10 years ago that I started talking talking about something called Vitality Portfolio, and then really kind of solidified it into a concept and resources about 5 years ago. But anyway, ultimately, in short, most people are pretty comfortable with at least the concept of a financial portfolio. They know in order to have any kind of financial security, they should make a plan, they need to balance their assets, and they need to make regular deposits. There's that, rubber meets the road at making the deposits. And so I did the same thing with Vitality. I tell people you need to make a Vitality plan, because, oftentimes people will spend more time planning a family vacation than they've ever spent planning their lifelong vitality. So you need to make a plan, and then you need to balance the vitality assets, which I have identified as your whole person wellness assets, and the core assets, which I talk about resilience and ageless thinking as being those core assets, and then your functional assets of strength, mobility, and endurance, because the body is the way you interact with the world, and it allows you to keep your world as large as possible. As you lose function, your world just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so between the making a plan, balancing your vitality assets, and then the last one is you have to make regular deposits into your vitality. So I'm asking people to after they make that plan and really evaluate, what am I doing in each one of my dimensions of wellness? Now, whether you talk about 4 dimensions or 6 dimensions or 7 or whatever, that concept that we're more than just one dimensional. We have all body, mind, spirit, all of these things built in. And what am I doing on a daily basis, on a habitual basis, to make deposits, then withdrawals from my vitality portfolio? And I think when people kind of get this concept, it's like, oh yeah, what have I done today? Have I done anything that's building up my vitality bank account, I guess, so that when I do have to make a withdrawal from it, I have something. I don't go in, under that line. I don't go into debt basically in my health. And so that's the concept. And I created a video series around it. I created, worksheets and all kinds of things that people can help people develop their own personal vitality plan. And like right now on my website, under Ignite Personal Vitality, that tab, there's some free downloadable stuff. There's a starter toolkit on the Vitality portfolio that everybody's welcome to download and just work through it and see if I can get some insights.
We'll make sure that we have a link to that on the website when we post this, so anybody who's listening can take advantage of those free resources.
Hey, you just mentioned ageless. Did you say living or thinking? Ageless thinking, I think you said. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, ageless thinking. I mean, for a long time, and of course, since you guys have been friends and colleagues for so many years, you know that I've talked incessantly about ageism and thinking differently about aging, but it truly is the key, because so many times people allow their age to change the way they think about something. And one of the most stark examples I always use is that young people with really profound disabilities are given resources, tools, and encouragement to overcome those challenges and live fully in spite of them. Yet somehow when people get older and have some kind of a functional challenge, they're only given resources and tools to cope with those challenges instead of overcome. And there's such a profound difference in that mindset between coping or overcoming, which results in very profoundly different outcomes. So, I think it's so critical to get the mind working in the direction that regardless of challenges, that you're looking for adaptive strategies to keep moving forward in life. You're going to look for adaptive strategies to keep your world as large as possible, rather than just, making your world smaller to cope with it. You're going to use adaptive strategies just to keep your world as large as possible so you can live fully. Well, that's kind of my short answer of the ageless thinking.
That's a fantastic one. And Ellen Langer would agree with you. She's someone we've talked about a lot about.
Yes.
Yes. As you know so well. Well, I want to congratulate you. You have, in the latest edition of the Journal of Active Aging, you have a magnificent article on purpose-centered senior living.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for championing that topic. I think you're right on target with that, how important purpose is. And by the way, you're back-to-back with our own Teresa Beschwait's article on widowhood and supporting well-being in that. So we're in good company, Danielle. We're in good company this morning.
Yay, Teresa.
We got the celebrity A-list in the house.
But that's that's a magnificent article. And I, as the oldest one in this group, have more and more become aware and appreciate the importance of purpose. And I think even this pandemic probably even hit it more. I guess it's an accelerant of everything that's happening in the world, this COVID-19. But this whole idea of what purpose means to me, and I believe that you are correct, that it is an incredibly important part of certainly senior living and just longevity, healthy longevity in general. So could you expound a little bit on some of these excellent points that you talked about in this article? Certainly it was for senior living, but I'm sure it's you can expand how that can affect anybody no matter where they live.
Yeah, and I think, even though the article was written for senior living, talking to the senior living industry, basically what I was trying to get, people to think about is older adults, people who are, 65 plus, that generation that are now 65 plus, grew up on the concept of purpose and social causes and being involved and active in change. And so I think it's, for me, the ideas in the article are really geared towards how do we get people who want to take charge and make change and help change happen, the environment to let that happen, to support that to happen. And so I think one of the things that I'm really passionate about is how do we help people very easily gather with others who are passionate about that same concept and work together towards change. And I think we have just this completely untapped resource of groups of elders living in senior living who are just, perfect for making broad sweeping changes in our culture and solving big problems in our culture. I mean, if I could wave a magic wand, I would love it if every community that had a senior living community within it would look to that community as the elders who can help them solve the community problems. And so instead of, it's a bunch of old people over there, it's, oh my gosh, we have this whole resource of people. Let's go find out what they can do to help solve problems. And I know that, Teresa, you mentioned the Victory Lap purpose project that's going on right now. And Victory Lap is a nonprofit organization that has matched foster children who are aging out of the foster care system with senior living. And it's a fantastic program because what they've done is these kids then live in a senior living apartment. They work at the community, so they're given job skills and they're, paid to work at the community. And then the social services helps keep supporting that individual through the system. And it's just a fantastic match because those young people who've been kind of awash in this foster system that is not anything to be super proud of, unfortunately, right now, they are given the support of all of the community members. And so I think it's a fantastic mix. It's a fantastic opportunity, really, for people to get involved in something like that. I also love I talked about the Abashu, which is an organization that activates older adults in a community that's gone through some sort of a disaster, like in Tokyo or in Japan when they had the tsunami and destroyed lots of areas. Instead of the elders, being rescued, they actually came to the rescue of the broader community. And they work together to, rebuild community centers, physically rebuild community centers, plant gardens, create space where people could come and talk and build community again out of these places that had just been completely leveled, completely destroyed. And I just find that absolutely amazing. And it shows us the depth and breadth of what elders have to offer if they're given the resources and tools and encouragement to offer. And, the structure to not just be sort of on the sidelines, but actually be a driving force behind change. That program it's not a program, that whole project, that whole organization just fascinates me. Emmy Kyoto, who started it, is just a fantastic person. In fact, I'm actually talking to her later this afternoon. But she's really created a wonderful thing.
It doesn't make any sense, does it, that we squander such a resource? I mean,
Yes.
we see it in the Blue Zones how it's culturally embedded to take advantage of this resource, and of course, old hunter-gatherer Roger here. I mean, this is just the way we've lived forever, and being guided by our elders. It is remarkable how something like this, very recent in our history, has all happened. But my God, so these are excellent programs, reminders, and hopefully they can, and I think they will, take root because they're intuitive, they're positive. And so thank you for the article, thank you for making us aware, and thank you for giving us a load of optimism and really practical tips on how to stay well. I know that we're out there, and where you live, it's almost impossible to not be well, really. But
yeah, if you're paying attention at all and taking advantage of all. And I think that's one of the other issues, and the things that I'm passionate about is how do you help people, inspire people to take advantage of the opportunities in front of them? Because, Roger, believe it or not, there are people who live in Bozeman, Montana and never get to the mountains. And how you could do that, I can't even imagine. I mean, they're just so accessible and so beautiful. But if you then kind of turn that and look at, say, senior living communities that have they're opportunity-rich environments, and yet you have people who do absolutely nothing and don't get engaged at all. And so how do you inspire those people to take advantage of what's in front of them? And also, one of the things I think that is going to be a big opportunity in this arena is how do you get people to accept and embrace that shared responsibility of creating culture of well-being? And what I'm talking about is right down to the point of saying to people, pay attention to your emotional residue. And that when I think of the emotional residue, I think about, if you're walking down a hallway and somebody's coming the other direction and you either go, oh, yay, or, oh, God, where do I, turn to not have to run into them? Because some people leave a very negative, downward residue, and some people live a very positive residue. And I think we have to hold people accountable and make them aware of that emotional residue, because it has a lot to do with the culture of a place, whether it's the culture of your broader community, whether when you're out in a store or wherever you're at, are you being the person who's just grousing around and pushing in line and being obnoxious? Or are you being a friendly individual who, if you have 2 items and somebody, or you have 100 items and somebody has 2 and you let them in front of you? I mean, all of that has to do with emotional residue, but, helping people be aware of that personal responsibility.
And what you've said actually resonates with me. We have, in a class I'm taking on positive psychology, Barbara Fredrickson, who's like the foremost leader in positive psychology, was saying exactly what you just said. If you walk down a hallway and you see one person smiling and other people frowning, you immediately go to the smiling person. Then you make eye contact and you have that positive resonance where you both get that emotional boost. And you're talking about purpose. She's done numerous studies where if somebody has a meaning and purpose and they have that positive attitude, the cell expression changes, their immune system better, and cellular aging is like what it should be. So it's optimal aging. So thank you for saying that, because that's it ties into beautifully to everything that's out there that supports what you said.
Yeah, what you talked about, the gene expression, that's fascinating. I had that in my article too, because I read that article about the research about that gene expression, and that people who are, they use the example of Mother Teresa. Basically, you're giving and you're looking, you're totally immersed in purpose, that your immune system response is better, that you fight off, any kinds of infections and disease better. Whereas that person who has a positive attitude, but it's really only about what they're getting. Like I'm living in a resort and I'm just kind of not doing anything for anyone, that they may feel positive, but they don't have the same gene expression. It's not giving them the same boost in immunity and all that. I find that fascinating. It's like, wow, that's so cool. That it really is down to the very cellular level that we are programmed to have value and purpose in this world, and that we have to find ways to give as well as receive.
Wow. There it is from the queen of positive residue.
I think I'll have a t-shirt made with that on it, Roger.
Yeah, you should. Well, that's why we were so excited to have you, Kay, because your knowledge of what's happening in the research and your advice, but the practical aspect, the practical nature of what you told us today and what you espouse all the time. That's what makes you such a gift to the whole field of longevity and healthy living.
Wow.
So thank you for being with us. And Teresa and I hope to be with you if COVID would allow us next month in Bozeman riding. And we hope we can make that happen. But in either case, we loved having you here today.
Well, thank you so much. I love being here, and I'm got my fingers crossed, and I'm just going to believe it's going to happen. You'll be here.
Yeah. Danielle, how can we learn more about Kay?
I'm sure Kay can tell us. Kay, how can we learn more about you and your work?
You're lying, right?
You can go to my website. It's just kvannorman.com. Or you can type in Brilliant Aging and my name, and it'll pop up as well. And so there are a lot of resources on there for individuals. If you go to the Ignite Personal Vitality link, it'll give you all kinds of free downloadable articles and worksheets and things to help. And then there's also resources for senior living to help with creating those cultures of well-being, and also generating leads through kind of that wellness lens. So yeah, just visit me on the website, and it has my contact information, and feel free to shoot me an email, and I'm happy to respond.
Thank you. And once again, we'll make sure that all those links are in the description of this program so people can find you a little more easily.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you all. It was great to see your faces, and
Kay, you're a national treasure.
Oh, thank you. I can't wait to have that on the videotape, and I can just play it back every once in a while when I'm feeling not so great in the day.
And you could put it on the back side of the t-shirt too. So.
There you go. National treasure. There you go.
Well, take care of yourself, and thanks once again for being with us.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Dr. Roger and Friends, The Bright Side of Longevity. If you like the show, please rate and review, and be sure to click to follow.